Friday today, and unusually I've got a weekend off. But Saturday I'm off to see a friend over in Sheffield, but on the way over going to have a look at hopefully a few bikes at a place, and then spend the day in Sheffield overnight, back on the Sunday, and I think I'm back into work on the Monday. So let's have a think what's been going on, what we've been doing. All right, well, last night I met up at the local bike meet at Great Harwood, which is going strength to strength. Weather-wise it was a little bit raining when I got there, but good turnout. That must have been 30 plus bikes there, and we went in the pub across the road, and I had a tea and some meat and potato pie, all for a couple of quid. Caught up with a couple of other friends who'd been to see the rebuilt steam locomotive, the Tornado, on the Settle to Carlisle line. Unfortunately I was working, as I think I've alluded to in previous videos, but we said that it was quite a sight. It was disappointing though. We said when it came past them, it was pulling the coaches and it was going backwards with a diesel locomotive behind it, and in common with most things it was edited out, that on the news one, that we didn't show that. So we were having a talk about that actually, and I was wondering why, and we thought that probably due to some redundancy issues they had to have a means of clearing the track. So I guess the diesel locomotive is there as a backup to the steam one in case it fails. But a friend of mine, Paul Flying Pan Man, watch his blog if you get a chance, it's interesting, was saying that he thought it might have been something to do with redundancy, but I don't know. We seem to run these things these days and we always have a diesel in tow. So anyway, I had a good yarn last night about motorcycling things, and we were talking about working on bikes in garages and things, and one of my colleagues was saying he's got a hydraulic lift thing, that sort of hydraulic lift thing, but just takes his bike a few inches off the floor to work on. And I said, well, that sounds a good idea, because getting a bit past lying on the floor. And in fact, when I moaned about lying on the floor, a few people came back to me and said, well, why don't you put some carpeting down, that'll be easier. Well, yeah, it is. I've got some carpeting down. I'm alright lying on the floor, but it's the morning after when you feel it. So really, ideally, I could do with something that I can sit on a stool and work on it. But I don't know. But yeah. One of my colleagues, or friends, was showing me a set of gloves that he'd got, some Gerbing gloves with integral batteries in them on the wrists, and they look pretty good. Decent gloves, and the batteries weren't huge, you just sort of slipped in the top of the cuffs. And there's no wires to them, you charge them up, and I think he said he got 6 hours out of them, which was pretty good. I think my days of wired gloves have actually gone, but the battery ones seem to be a good alternative. Certainly after the debacle I've had with the wired ones. So yeah, just back to the bike meet. Yeah, it was pretty good really. You know, this time of year it's a bit dismal in the evening. We were all talking about when the better weather comes, how it's going to be just really nice at that particular venue. You know, sort of an old market square and everything handy. So yeah, so considering there was 30 plus bikes there I think last night, and it's still effectively winter, isn't it? It was pretty impressive. And the other thing about that particular night is they go on to another motorcycle club normally, or I think a couple of other motorcycle clubs. I was asked if I wanted to go there, but I said, well, I would like to go, but preferably when I'm off the next day. I wouldn't be drinking, of course, but I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, so it's bad enough trying to get up at 5. So I got back last night about, I don't know, 9:15, something like that. Nice couple of hours with the guys. And we got talking about the usual thing that you do as a motorcyclist. We got talking about tyres, and it was mentioned, somebody was saying they'd had Michelin's and they'd been impressed with them, so it's looking more and more like Michelin's actually on this. Well, hello there, Tony again. Just finishing after a overnight shift. So as you'll see, the bike is wet. It's been out overnight, outside work, and I do have a cover for it to put over at work, but it got me thinking the other day about covers and bikes. Because invariably the bike is wet when I get to work and warm, so I don't actually like putting a cover over the bike when it's wet and warm, apart from the fact I don't have a cover to catch fire, although I don't think it would do. I think it's heat retardant or resistant material. But the question for today is it better to cover the bike up when you've had a wet ride and you're having to leave it outside, or is it better to leave it open to the elements to dry off? Because I'm thinking, well, you know, damp, wet, warm conditions aren't good for motorcycles, are they really? Is it better to leave it out to the open air, at least give it a chance to get blown off and dry? I don't know. What do you think? Cover on with it wet, or cover off? So as you may well detect, it's a little bit windy on here today, and this is the beginning of Hurricane, is it, or Storm Doris? Now, these hurricane names just get me. I mean, in America we have, you know, Hurricane Annabelle and Storm this, but we have sort of names like Doris and Henry and Nigel. Doesn't exactly fill you with dread, does it? But typical. I mean, you know, I suppose we should be afraid, but Storm Doris doesn't exactly portray an image, does it? But anyway, I was expecting it to be wet this morning, but it isn't. It's windy, as you can tell. And this particular section of the motorway on the M65 is prone to crosswinds. And I'm getting a bit of a battering behind this wagon here, so I'm going to get past that. So I think I might have solved the problem with mounting the Zumo. A guy on one of the groups, social media groups, for this bike has said he's got a mount that he made that's going spur. He sold his ZZR12, I think it was the last couple of weeks, and he's offered me the mount. It's a homemade thing, but it looks a business, and it actually fastens to the bolt on the screen on the left. So I'm going to be going to the post office today and send him a jiffy bag to send it. It's good of him to hold it for me. So Ian Francis, I think your name is. Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. And then I can get the Zumo on. So anyway, I think last time I was saying that I was going to go to a motorcycle place and have a look at some bikes. Well, I was away on weekend and Saturday I was away in Sheffield and I got back. So on Sunday I had a look at the place on the way back from Sheffield. And yeah, plenty of bikes there. And obviously quite a few outside my my price bracket. But I was going to have a look at an FJR and a GTR 1400. Whoa, it is windy. Anyway, when I got to the bike place, the GTR Kawasaki wasn't there anymore. I think they'd sold it. It was a good price, so I'm not surprised. But the FJR 1300 was. And it was within the range that I'm thinking of. We were selling this one way or the other. I think it was a 2005, the FJR. But I had my wife Ellen with me. And the first thing she liked about it was the fact that it was lower down than this, so she can get on it easier, not sat up. So she seems to be certainly to a convert of the FJR. There was a lovely red Pan-European there, which I had a sit on, but Ellen said that looked too big, even though the seat, you know, from accounts is very, very comfortable. Ellen said she thought that was too big. But yeah, the FGR looked alright. Oh, it's an earlier model, so I'd have to put up the battery thing and be in the fairing. So yeah, came back from there a bit more informed. I think sometimes when you look at these bikes and you go through the tick list of specifications of what you're going to want, you do need to sit on them, don't you, and suss them out and just see how they feel. And whilst the Pan was lovely, it did feel a bit too big. I mean, I would have no problems acclimatising to it and getting used to it, but the FGR seemed more compact. But, as they say, the show's not over till the fat lady sings.